Click the links for Odysee, BitChute, or coffee. Dan Slott, globalist, Luciferian, fat, destroyer of worlds. The short version is that they have taken off the mask and admitted what we have known all along. They want brown characters that sell well, but when they create new ones, they don't sell. They go a year and then they get canceled for low sales, and the numbers just keep getting embarrassingly low for something that's a known name for a big company. It's like, really, you're selling 6,000 issues of some dog shit Marvel property. Isn't there any self-awareness, any humiliation going on around that office? No, apparently not. Because they are woke, i.e. racist and sexist, anti-white, and sometimes anti-Christian. Why would the average English or German kid want to read something where the bad guy is blonde every single time? It doesn't make sense. Here's the thing. European people are awesome. They know it. You're not going to convince them that they suck. That dog just won't hunt. So you got a little Twitter exchange, and Robson says he revealed the reason why Hollywood race and gender swaps iconic characters in response to some fat idiot who doesn't have an upper lip for some reason. God, he's black soulless eyes, shark's eyes. So Slott, the fat idiot, says, when adapting comics or rebooting, there's no reason to have the iconic characters be straight white men. The only reason they're that way in comics is because they were created in the 30s and 60s when that was the default. It's not the 60s anymore. There's nothing that says comics shouldn't be made with all new characters featuring superheroes who just aren't straight white males. It's possible to both things, to share the icons and to create new characters who represent all of us at the same time. Then why don't the characters look like you, Dan? So Eddie Robinson says, and you always get people saying, why not create new characters who aren't straight white men? Missing the point that characters like that are being created all the time, but it's hard for them to compete with famous iconic characters with decades of history behind them. It's not hard to compete if you write stories that are good. So what they're ending up with is they're losing that section of the audience, the white part of America, which is 60%. The other 40% wants to either read it in Spanish or otherwise is not interested in comics. There's a lot of modern distractions. Oh, those kids with their Pac-Man and their record players. They've got social media, they've got video games, or they can stream Netflix and whatever, or maybe even read an actual book. So comics penned by globalists loses the blonde audience in favor of kids who probably are not big fans of reading. So congratulations to idiots like Dan Slott. You killed comics. And he says, it's a franchise-dominated landscape, and you can't just will new franchises into being. Yes, you develop them slowly, but you first have to get people to buy your product by writing good stories. They're incapable of that. And I don't mean they choose not to do that. I mean, I don't think they can actually do it. You'll make much faster progress by diversifying the franchise that already exists. Boom, there you have it. He lays it out for you. So they introduced new brown characters that seem to be as racist as these globalist writers themselves, and the audience just doesn't support it. Then they end up just race-swapping characters, but when you make a European-originated character into an African one, you go from 60% potential audience to 13% audience. But the actual numbers are even worse because the blonde kids actually were buying the comics, the POC kids weren't. So you manage to lose a generation of readers, which decreases the retail footprint, all the while raising prices for SJW comics to $4 when, according to inflation, they'd probably be like $2.50 maybe. And SJW comics are not worth $2.50. I'm saying if you got rid of the SJWism and you wrote the best comics in that format, would be worth like $2.25 or something like that. The audience keeps shrinking every year, so the next generation is gone. People like Dan Slott, obese globalist parasites, managed to kill comics in about 20 years. There is no new crop of buyers on the horizon. They destroyed and insulted their audience. for a potential audience that hasn't materialized. But these globalist vermin also let you know that they are actually legitimately racist. They really hate blonde people. They do things, and the things with the covers, which is sort of a creative method of bookkeeping. Instead of fixing the substantive product, they try to trick the collectors into buying covers of, like, multiple covers of garbage. It's like, okay, great, you buy one and maybe you can sell it for $8. Good for you. But all the while, it's like you're getting these short-term gains and you're destroying a long-term profit. So Star Wars and comics kind of did the same thing. They abandoned their actual audience for a potential younger one. But kids don't want diverse, woke, anti-white, anti-male propaganda. Again, if you're male, you know you're awesome. And if you're white, you know you're awesome. Why would you want to read stuff about propaganda in comics? You look at it, and then you look at the idiots who write it, and you know they're just racist. They're just really, really racist. So the mistake that normies make in thinking that this is about money. It is not about money. The evidence is overwhelming that it is about a narrative. They repeatedly use POC breastless lesbians in interracial relationships and stories about fighting the evil blonde Germans of 1940. The comic fails, then they just rebooted a few months later. Ghostbusters 2016, Ocean's 8, X-Men, Terminator, Charlie's Angels, Men in Black, Birds of Prey. They don't care about money. They are globalists, Marxists, Bolsheviks. They are Legion, cloak of many colors sort of thing. If they were about making a product for value, they would just stop with the anti-white stuff. Literally every single gang in comics is blonde, a bunch of blonde-haired guys. Or if they shave their heads because they know they've overdone the blonde trope, then they all have blonde or green eyes. They're all clearly of European origin. POC gangs don't exist in comics. You're going to have to search far and wide to find one. I read a lot of comics. They're getting worse. Trump derangement syndrome has made them lose their effing minds. I could do comic reviews every day, but it's kind of repetitive. There's no shortage of breastless POC lesbians who fight evil blondes, or at the best, they will have stupid blonde partners who are just totally incompetent. And it's like, bruh, have you seen Europe? Because, blonde-haired, blue-eyed people belt that. People who look like Dan Slott didn't. I'm reading the comics online, and a lot of other people are also reading the comics online, if you are following me here. Because when comics suck so bad they are only digital, why would somebody buy it? To support the creator, bigot. The creator is a racist. F the creator. Watching comics over the past few years has been watching a slow-motion train wreck where everything just keeps getting worse. The train's on fire, but don't worry, it's snowing, the snow puts it out, but unfortunately the train jumped the tracks. It's like comics is springtime for Hitler, which I could almost understand. Anyway, so his part of his progress in comics is you'll make much faster progress by diversifying the characters that already exist, because they know the audience isn't out there. So they're hoping to get these, 40 to 60 year old. By 60, you're kind of probably out of Star Wars. You're probably out of movies and comics by 60, but I don't know. Probably like your sweet spot is probably like 40 to 50, maybe 35 to 55 of comic fans. Yes, white guys who's got a couple of bucks in their pockets or some nostalgia bucks. Market to them. They will hand this stuff off to their kids. Star Wars 1977 wasn't a kid's movie. It was an all ages movie. It's sold to everybody. Market to your main audience. They will hand it off to their kids. And I'm talking about the physical product. You have to have a physical product to hand off to people. This digital-only concept, it's just copium. And the reason manga does so well is because it's not anti-white garbage. I know it's like people just say woke, and it's like, well, what does woke mean? well, I can give you specific. Go read Immortal Hulk 1 and 11, and that will sum up the feeling of comics. Like, oh, Immortal Hulk's this great comic. It's like, it's gone 50 issues. Yeah, well, like in the first 11 issues, you had two very, very anti-white, there was an anti-Second Amendment. Was in the first issue was a bunch of blonde, blue-eyed people commit crimes, and it's a Second Amendment issue. It's an anti-Second Amendment issue. That's in the first issue. That's not... You're losing a big chunk of your audience with that kind of stuff. And then in issue 11, I can't even really talk about it on YouTube because I'll lose my friggin' mind. You can find it online. If you have to read one thing, go read. If you want to know what comics happened to comics in the past 20 years, Immortal Hulk issues 1 and 11 is a really great summation. It's a précis. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe, guys, and I'll see you all on Odysee and BitChute.